Now, let's talk about AGL Energy. They've announced massive write-downs in the value of its assets. Why?
So it's around $2.7 billion. And you'd naturally go and think, oh, this is all about coal-fired power stations.
Yeah.
But it's actually not. It's partly that, and it's partly about the amount of money they've got to put aside to basically rehabilitate some of the land that those power stations are on when finally they're decommissioned. But the second part about it is actually their wind and solar farms. Now, they entered into contracts going way, way back, thinking and presuming that they get certain prices. Those prices have now collapsed in electricity because of coronavirus and because of a lack of industrial sort of, if you like, output. And so the demand for electricity in Australia is way down, so are prices. So they've come out today and written off some $2.7 billion. Now, they're not the only energy company today that's actually, again, marked down that there's tougher times. Origin Energy, both these shares, Origin and AGL, are down 5% in early trading. Origin has basically said, look, energy prices are way off. The gas prices, particularly in Australia, are way off. And so they've said that their earnings will be significantly lower. So that's led to both companies, if you like, seeing their share prices well down today.
On the flip side, and I guess it's a quarantine coronavirus measure, Nick Scali is a company that's absolutely flying. We're all buying new couches, are we?
Yeah, we are. That's exactly what's going on. So everybody stayed home, nobody could travel, so everybody sat there and thought, well, if I'm going to sit on this couch, I might as well make it a comfortable one. So Nick Scali has basically come out and said half year net profit is up by 90%. Now, if you sat there and thought store closures, coronavirus, lockdowns, that's going to lead to a 90% increase in Nick Scali's profits, you'd sit there and go, nah, you're dreaming. That is not going to happen. But in actual fact, when people actually got to their homes and had to sit there for a while, that they looked around at the furniture and said, this needs changing. If we're not going anywhere, we're going to change some stuff. And so really, they're flying. And it's in line with guidance. They basically said they thought this was going to double at some stage. Record sales up 47% during that half year. So again, it gives you a pretty good idea as to what Australians have been doing.
I don't know about you, with two kids, became an essential service. So
exactly.
That's certainly in line with that. Just quickly, Google, record profit.
Yes.
This is probably bad timing as they're negotiating this code with the government.
It is pretty astonishing, I've got to tell you, because a couple of things came out of this. Not only is Google making astonishing amounts of money, so let's go, for example, their net profit up 43%, $15.2 billion, sales up 23%, $56.9 billion in just one quarter. Wow. So the share prices were up more than 7% in after hours trading. But the important part about this is its boss, the chief executive, Sundar Pichai, said during this he made some reference to the dispute which they've got with the Australian government. And this is over the media code and how much Google and Facebook should be paying to publishers, including, say, Sky News and others, to be able to use their carriage. They profit from that by selling advertising. He basically highlighted something that they're doing themselves. And this is a thing called News Showcase that they're using in Europe. They say they've already spent $1 billion with news partners. So this is their way of saying we don't need to go down the route of the Australian government and their enforced legislation, that we already have a scheme in place. We're already paying news publishers. I don't think that's going to cut any mustard with the Communications Minister, who I spoke to yesterday and who will play that interview on Business Weekend.
Good forward sizzle.
There you go.
Like that.
You like that?
Sounds like a bit of Google market manipulation where they control it rather than putting it into governments. And of course, they'd be worried about contagion, wouldn't they? A lot of countries be looking what's going on in Australia and see what they can do.
It is precisely what's happening. But then the second thing, do remember, is that the publishers here in Australia and the media producers could not come to a voluntary agreement with Google and Facebook here in Australia, which is where the ACCC and the government stepped in. So that's one of the interesting things. But now Google and Facebook, of course, have threatened to walk away from Australia, which is the reason why Microsoft has said it's ready and standing by with its Bing product if, say, for example, Australians need an alternative search engine.
Microsoft hasn't always been a nice player, should we say, but perhaps we'll delve into that another time.
There are some others as well. Let's think about those.
Exactly.